Hi guys, so today we are looking at this UHER 4400 report monitor, and this is essentially a cassette recorder. It is a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It takes 5-inch tapes, which are these ones here. Got a new one in a packet here which we'll be using later. The way this works, your supply tape reel goes on the left hand side and your empty take-up reel comes on the right hand side, and the tape will move from one side to the other exactly the same way as a compact cassette, except it's two separate reels. And this unit is really nice. I really like this. It's just something about this. It's very retro. It's something you'd see in an old war film or something. It's yeah, I do like this. So this is a German-made UHER cassette recorder, and there's quite a lot of features on here. It's not a cheap machine by any means. I don't know the original sale price when it came out in the early 80s. I mean, UHER have been going a long time. They came out in the 60s, I think, originally, cassette recorders. This particular one, I think I'm right in saying it's early 80s. And this is one of the higher end ones in that this is a 2-channel device. So it doesn't say stereo on it anywhere. What it is labelled channel 1, channel 2, and mic 1 and mic 2. Because this is basically it's a dictaphone machine. It's something that you would use, reporters would use to gather interviews, and the reason behind that is you've got 2 microphones, so the interviewer would have them on microphone, the interviewee would have a microphone, and you can record both channels. So you can record just one, second microphone, or both together, essentially stereo. And you can turn the tape over at the end and record stereo, 2 tracks on the other side as well. So what have we got on the front here? We've got 2 panel meters, which are levels, 2 VU meters in effect. It says dB at the top. And this one doubles also as a battery indicator. So this one is for channel 1, this one's channel 2. If you look in the center here, we've got this green portion, and that's labeled voltage from 5 to 8 volts. So there's a battery test button here. If you've got batteries in, or you've got the mains adapter in, then it will show you what the voltage is that you've got left. So that's quite nice. It's got a tape counter. It's also a 3-head deck. So look on the top there, you can see it says 3 heads, and we can see these if we open this panel up. This is how you would get to the heads if you needed to clean them. And probably just about see them there. So you've got an erase head, which is here, this one. This is the record head, and this is the playback head. So for those of you who don't know, 3-head cassette decks, which is a valid term in compact cassettes as well, means that it can record and monitor the playback at the same time. So what you would do is you would start it recording, switch to the tape, and you'd be able to hear immediately what is being recorded on the tape. That then allows you to adjust the recording level or microphone placement or whatever at the time to get the best recording that you want. And this is the monitor switch here. So when we're recording, and we'll test this out later, when we're recording we can switch between source, which is what's coming from the microphones or the audio input, the line input, and then we switch over to tape as it's recording, and we can hear then on the speaker what's actually coming off the tape, what's just been recorded. And the idea of that is you would get it as close as possible to the source. So we've got recording for mic 1, mic 2, and then a master as well. So if you're recording in stereo, you could treat these as a balance, left and right, and then the master control here. We've got a volume control because it's got a built-in speaker. that's there. Also a tone control for that as well. There's a mute, which you pull this out, push it in, that's the mute on off. Don't know why it's not on a volume control. I think it would make more sense on the volume, but it's on the tone. And then we've got our battery test, which we've talked about. There's also a light button, this to light up the meters. I guess if you were doing an interview outside, it was going dark, you can press this, light up those meters so you can see what recording level you've got. This is the recording for the input, so this is mic 1, mic 2, mic 1, mic 2, or stereo. If you're using the line input, which there is around the side, then these are still valid. This still uses these controls, but they're obviously not mic 1 and mic 2. It's going to be the line. And then this is the main switch. So this is your tape speed. So you notice there's a couple of zeros, 3 0 positions around this. This is where basically it's switched off. So on 0 it's off. It's exactly the same if it's there, and exactly the same if it's there. And the reason why you've got the off positions is as soon as you switch it to a tape speed, and there's 4 of them, there's 9.5 centimeters per second, which is the fastest. Then coming down slower, you've got 4.7 centimeters a second, 2.4 centimeters a second, and the slowest is 1.9 centimeters a second. And what the zeros are for is that you would stop at a position and then go to the speed that you want. It just saves you running through all of the speeds before you get to the one you want. You can set this there, and then if you wanted 4.7, you can just switch on and off. If you were using 9.5, then you'd have it there or there, and switch the 9.5 to turn it on. So the tape speeds, the difference there is quality, basically. So if you have it on the faster speed, this is the best quality, but obviously the tape is moving faster, so you don't have as much record time on that tape. If you put it to the slower speed, then this is maximum record time, but lower quality in the result. And if you were doing an interview and you were using these microphones and it was just for dictaphone purposes, then quality wouldn't matter. You would have it on the slower speed. But I'm going to be trying to get a good musical content from this, so I'm going to have it on the faster speed during my tests and see what kind of output we get. I'm expecting this is going to be pretty good. We should be able to get a decent quality from that. What else have we got? This socket looks as though it's for an external speaker, external headphones, maybe headphones. Looks like a little mic symbol there, unless it's stereo, unless it's suggesting that stereo is for the headphones. So stereo headphones or speaker output there. Then round the side, this radio phono, this is our line input. So this is just a 5-pin DIN. So 2 lines in, 2 lines out, and a ground. That's the one we're going to be using later to record on. This one is the power supply input. So I'll explain that a bit later, but there's an external power pack which you can connect up to this and supply power to it. Also charge some internal batteries if you had them. This monitor socket, I'm not entirely sure what this is. I think this is for some kind of external speaker, I think, but I'm not 100%. And then we've got a headphone jack there, 1/4-inch headphone jack. There's nothing around the rest of it. It's in good shape, this. I don't have the handle. There is a carry handle which is meant to clip on here, and I don't have that, which is a shame, but the unit is in very good condition. This top part here, this plastic, is very good. It's not dulled or anything. So what I'll do, I'll turn it over, we'll open it up, and we'll take a quick look inside before we give this a test. So, bottom of the machine, this is released with this single slotted screw. It's meant for a coin or something else to be in there. just a quarter turn, and then the bottom comes off. This machine did have a battery leak when I first got this. The terminals were in quite poor condition. This one here had disintegrated altogether and snapped off, so I've actually used part of a paper clip there and soldered it back on, which does the job, holds the battery connection in. So the power options on this device, there's 3 different options. One is to use batteries, so just D-cell batteries, these large ones. It takes 5 of these, so 4 here, and there's another single one here. The second option is to use a proprietary charger. This is the correct UHER charger that comes with this. Model number is Z124A1. And there's a flex on here. This goes to the mains. And then this whole unit drops into the battery compartment. So where the 4 D cells would be, this just presses into there. And there's 2 terminals on the side, which output the 6 volts that the machine needs. Now the third option is to have rechargeable batteries in here. Now I believe you can just put D-cell nickel cadmium batteries into here. I don't think it needs the anything particular UHER battery pack or anything. I think you can just put the NiCads in there, and the way they get charged again is from this charger, but from the side here. So you'd use this externally from the machine, and there's a cable between here and the input on this side that we saw before, and that would then supply charge to the unit and charge these batteries up at the same time. So with this in the unit, of course, when this is snapped in place, the cord just comes out of this little opening here, and then the lid can go back on. So it's just a mains powered device at that point. So it's quite versatile in that respect. This cardboard here is just a protection for the circuit, so we'll take that off and we'll take a look inside. This board here conveniently swings out the way, so you just get a screwdriver. It's just one screw holding that in, and then it can just swing out the way like this. So as you can see, it's quite densely packed in here. Lots of cable looms coming around. This is the front panel, all the switches and controls on the front, and the VU meters. 2 circuit boards here, obviously all the mechanics at the bottom, which we'll take a look at. I think this is the amplifier board. I think these little modules here are the amplifiers. So what we see in here is there's a single motor here, this DC motor, and there's a pulley on each side. So there's one here, and there's one on the left hand side here, and 2 belts, so 1 belt on each pulley. Now this belt here is coming to this gearing across here, and this is for the fast forward and rewind of the unit. So this is driving the actual tape spindles themselves, and it's just a fixed speed, that so the motor will run and this will run as a fixed speed for the fast forward and rewind. This one on this side, this is just driving the capstan. So I'll show you how that works. Like I said, it's got the 4 speed controls. So the pulley, the capstan pulley here, is always spinning at the same speed. So motor spins at the same speed, pulley spins at the same speed, but the capstan wheel itself, depending on what speed setting we have set here, spins at different speeds. And the way it does that is this gold pulley here touches the underside of this capstan wheel. It makes contact. There's a rubber coating on it and a rubber coating on this, on the end of this pulley. and they both make contact, and that's how it drives the capstan. And the way that the speed is changed is that this pulley moves in and out, so it moves this way or this way across the capstan. And if I move the speed control, if you watch this gold pulley, you'll see it move outwards this way towards the edge of the machine. So this is the next speed, and the next slowest, and then the slowest. So you can see it's moved all the way out, and these the side of this pulley here reduces in size and touches this. So it's not the fact that it moves into the capstan itself, it's the fact that it's touching on these different diameter parts of this pulley as it goes in. So I'll move it back again, you'll see it move in. So that's how it regulates the speed. So that's two belts, one for the capstan, one for the tape spindle drive, which is this one, and there is a third belt, you might be able to see it there, and this is only for the counter. All this is doing is running the counter, and this is the most difficult one to get to if you need to replace it. You do need to pull the battery tray out. So I'm going to do that now just to show you that. So we just need to unscrew the tray. There's 4 screws holding it in. There's 3 and 4. Okay. So with those out of the way, this battery tray just lifts out. Like so. And there's some more mechanics underneath. So this is the belt from the counter. So at this top end here, there's a little pulley. Belt comes round, and this is the bottom of the take-up spindle from the other side. So this is the third belt. So that's all you need to replace. If you're getting a belt set for this, it's just these 3 belts, and they're fairly easy to get to. But with that out of the way, you can see some more under here. So this is obviously some more wiring loom. It's all nicely loomed up, as they used to do in the old equipment. So that's nice to see. This is board here. It's got some TTL chips on both sides. But yeah, you can see there's quite a lot in this, and it's quite heavy. I mean, it's probably, you know, a good few kilos this in weight. It's metal chassis and all these metal parts inside. It is quite a nice thing to look at. So what I'm going to do, I will put this back together. We'll turn it over, and then we'll put a tape in. You can see the operation of this thing. So this is what it looks like, loaded up with the batteries, and again, this just adds to the mass of this. It is a heavyweight thing. It's not something that I'd like to be carrying around as a job, doing my interviews with this. So I'm not going to run it with the batteries. I just thought I'd show you what they look like, but I'm going to remove these and I will put in the charger. Now I've noticed that when you push the charger in, there's a risk of it getting scratched with the battery terminals here, whether that's because these have been corroded and they're a bit rougher than they should be. I don't know, but what I've done is I've just put some electrical tape on one side of this, so the contacts are on the other side. I've just put some electrical tape here just to protect this charger. I don't want, because this is old, I'd like to keep it in as best condition as possible, so if you're using the charger in this, I suggest maybe you do the same. Just protect that side of the charger. So this just presses in like so. And then the cable is free to come out this side here. And we can put the lid back on. That's it. So that's a neat option, I think, for the power supply. I like the way that that fits inside and you just get the power lead coming out. It's almost as if it's just a mains unit at this point. So we've got no controls pressed, there's no tape in here, we're not press play or fast forward or anything. The power switch basically is the speed switch. So at each intermediate position you've got a 0, which is off, so you can quickly switch it on and off from one tape speed rather than having to go through all the tape options before you get to the one that you want. So I'll turn it on now, put it onto the fastest speed, which is 9.5 centimeters per second. Okay, so we get a power light on. Now these switches here, we've got one for the battery, so because we've got the internal power supply, I'm expecting it to be a good value. Yeah, it's just over 6. I'll be able to see that. So that's, as I said, that center green part is the battery, and it goes from 5 to 8 volts, and it's just on 6. So that's just a battery check. You won't need that with the power supply, of course, but when you've got the batteries in, they all operate in the same way. And then this next one is the light. Lights up the dials, and it's a temporary light, that one. Just to save, again, if you were on batteries, it would save the battery. You press it once and the lights come on, and they stay on for a short while and then they'll go off automatically. There they go. If you press it twice, then it toggles them on permanently. You press it twice like that and then they'll stay on. But I can hear that the capstan is spinning. You might not be able to hear that, it's pretty quiet. Okay, so what I will do is I'll adjust the camera and then we'll put some tapes in and we'll test this thing out. So I've never been a big fan of reel-to-reel tape decks. I know that the big ones that use the 1-inch tapes are very good quality. I mean, studio master quality, some of them. So I do realise that you can get a very good sound out of those. But I just think they're... I mean, I grew up in the compact cassette era, and I just think that's a lot easier than these. I never seem to do a good job of loading these reels, but let me show you what it entails anyway. So what you would normally have is a blank reel like this. So that fits over the spindle. We can locate it. There's 3 little wings on the spindle itself, and they fit into the slots on the cassette. That's it. And then with this one, because it's a portable device, if it was a flat device like this and it was only used in this position, it'd be no problem. But when you are using it upright, and it's meant to be carried over the shoulder, so this would be the top here, and you would use it upright. What could happen is these reels would drift off the spindles. So what the portable one has, if you center, we need to lift it and turn, and you can just turn that round and it locks it into place. So now that reel is secure. Now this won't move no matter what orientation the player is in. So what you should have is an empty reel like this, and then you'd have your full tapes. Now this is a brand new one, but if you'd pre-recorded tapes, then you would keep these as single reels. So obviously with a compact cassette, you have an empty one on one side and a full one on the other. Same deal here. It's just that they're separate. So you only need one empty one, and you'd have your stock of full reels like this that you could swap in and out. Now what I want to do, I want to load this new tape, but I want to load it onto a different reel. So I've bought these 2 reels, which they're actually 3D printed reels, but they look pretty nice. These are in the same style as the UHER ones that came originally with the unit. So there was some UHER aluminium reels, which you can buy now, but they command a good price. They're, you know, upwards of £50 each for these reels, and these two 3D printed ones were a lot less. Now, I've not tried these, so I'm hoping that the fitment is correct, etc. But I think they'd look nice in this unit. So what I want to do is load up the tape onto these. So what I'm going to have to do is load up a blank one on this side, like so, and then put on my new reel of tape on the other side. So you can see how this gets loaded now. Put this one onto here, and the tape has to come round this idler, through past the slot here where the playheads are, and then over to the other reel. Now, the way that these are loaded, there's normally a little slot there, and if we look on this reel, there'll be a slot somewhere. Now it's in the center there. It's in the center of this whole little slot. And basically, what the slot's for is that you put the end of the tape through the slot, like so, and then you wind it on a few turns. Oops, just come out of there. See, I said I wasn't the best at this. So put that into the slot, wind it on a few turns, like so, and that now is wound on. So that's the way you're meant to do it. This, you'll normally have a leader at the end of the tape, which is, in this case, it's white, but in the case of the other reel that I've got, this one, you can see it's not a full reel of tape, and the end of my leader is just tape, so you end up, after it's been a bit tatty and it's got cut a few times, you just end up threading tape through. I just think it's all a bit of a faff. And back in the day it was all they had, so there was nothing to compare it to. But now it's I think it's a bit of a faff to do this. Anyway, what I want to do now is fast forward this tape, all of this tape, onto this reel, and then I can put the full reel on the left, and then I'll put the other empty reel on the right, and then it's ready to go. So I'm going to turn this on, and then use the fast forward. And this is just going to take a little while. And this is what it looks like when it gets to the end of the tape. You just end up with the full reel flapping around like this. Okay, so that is our full reel of tape. Let's get rid of this. Put our empty one over here. And the full one here. Again, thread our tape round, past the heads, into the slot on this one. Wind it on a couple of turns. Oops. Yeah. Start again. Told you it was fiddly. So put it into the slot. I'll get there, bear with me. Right, that's it. Okay. Right. So we're ready to record now. If we play this, there won't be anything because it's a blank tape. Let's put it into play. Yeah, turn the volume up, it's just a blank tape this. So, let me get a source connected. So it's been a few days since the last bit of video that you've just seen, and I've had a little play around with this. I've got a couple of amendments to make to my previous part of the video. First thing is the speeds. I wasn't exactly accurate with the speeds here, so I assumed that this one here, 9.5 centimeters a second, was the fastest, and then it went slower, 4.7, 2.4, and 1.9, but this isn't 1.9, this is 19. So this is actually the fastest speed right here. This is 19 centimeters a second. Then the next slowest is 9.5. Next one is 4.7. And the slowest is 2.4. So this is the fastest, this is the slowest, and we'll test those out and you'll be able to hear the difference in the quality. The second thing to mention is the ports on the side. So there are two ports here. This one's labelled radio phono and this one's labelled monitor. They're both 5-pin DIN sockets, and I've got some 5-pin DIN to RCA leads plugged into there. Now, I assumed that the first one, the radio phono, was a line in, line out. So two lines in, 2 lines out. That's actually not the case. After having a little play with the connections here, this is just an input. So it looks as though, looking at the service manual and the circuit, there is some resistors between certain inputs on here, but essentially it's 2 channels input and that's it. I think that it's actually a low level input, so I think it's a phono input, because when I tested this out, a line input was distorting it. The only way I could get this to record at a proper level was to use the headphone output. So I'm going to use this Sony mini disc player here to do the recording, and there's a headphone socket there with a level control, and that's what I'm going to use to record on here, and that seems to work fine. The monitor is the output, so as the name would suggest, I guess, the monitor is the output. So what I've done is I've connected the monitor output to my speakers on the bench here, and then the radio phono, which is the input, I've connected to the headphone output of the mini disc player. So that's what I'm going to use for this test. There is a built-in speaker on here, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use my bench speakers, which are better quality, and hopefully you can hear what the recording sounds like. So this is the tape that I'm using. It's an old, it's new old tape, so I'm not sure whether this is still in good condition or the quality or anything, to be honest. It's all I've got. So that's what we're going to use. So I've already wound on that onto my reels, these 3D printed reels, and we will test this out now. So I'm going to start with the slowest speed of tape, so that's all the way around here to 2.4 centimeters a second. If I press play on here, you'll be able to see the speed of that tape. So this is really slow, but as I said before, this is a dictaphone machine pretty much, or an interview machine. It's not going to be a problem, that quality. You could record like this, get a really long recording time on these tapes, and it would be perfectly fine. If I turn this to the next speed, you'll see that's a little bit faster. This is 4.7 centimeters a second. And we go to 9.5. Faster again. And then the 19 centimeters a second, which is really quite fast, that, I think. I will start the mini disc up. I'm going to need to just lift this up slightly. Let me put something under here so you can see it. Okay, a couple of rolls of tape under there, that will do the job. So I want to start off with the slowest speed. So we'll turn that back around. So we can test the record level by just pressing the record button down without actually starting the reels up. So we press record button on its own. And there we can hear the output, and we can see the level on the displays here. Let me just turn that down slightly. Okay, so we've got a reasonable level here. Now, like I said, I'm using the headphone output of the mini disc here, and the headphones level is turned quite down. It's quite a way down there, but the levels on the deck are at a reasonable level. So the master is halfway, and the individual channels are almost halfway there, probably about 40%. Now, if I switch, the moment we're listening to both channels, if I switch it to channel 2, you see that the level meter on channel 2 carries on, the other one stops. And if we were recording, that's exactly what had happened. We just record this one channel, switch it to 1, and it changes to the other dial. So we want to record in stereo, so we'll leave it there. Let me put these lights on for you. And the built-in speaker, as I said, I've just turned this down, so I can turn it up here. But I'll leave that down because we want to hear the quality difference on this. So what I'm going to do is zero this counter. Let me start that track again, and we will start recording. Now, because this is a 3-head deck, like I said, we can switch between source and tape and hear the difference. So we're currently on the slower speed. I'm just going to turn this up again just so you can hear the difference. So this is the source, and then when I switch this, it'll go to what is actually recorded on the tape. You can hear it's quite dull, the high frequencies has gone, and also the speed isn't very stable as well at that slow speed. Source, tape, So for music there, that quality is pretty poor. We wouldn't want to listen to that for music, but if it was a microphone, it was just voices, I think that'd be perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do, I won't do all the speeds, but we'll just jump now to the fastest speed. So this is now 19 centimeters a second. I'll play the same track again and we will record. So this is the source. That's the tape. That's pretty close. That's a good quality, that, I think. And we can just play that back. Now you are using the fastest speed, so of course the tape isn't going to last as long. But for this vintage player, I think that is a really good result. Heads have been cleaned, the inside's been serviced, everything else. But yeah, it's all working fine. So I hope you've enjoyed looking at this. I do particularly like this. I think it's a good looking player. There's something about it, I think, which is just it's just quite retro. I mean, it's obviously a retro player, but I do really like this. And these 5-inch reels here, a little bit like Mission Impossible, you know, the tape players that they had there that destructed. I think it looks a little bit like those. But yeah, this is what you've got to do if you want to have one of these and you want to do the same testing and the same recording. Then you're going to use the radio phono for your input. Like I said, it's just a 5-pin DIN to RCA and the same cable for the output for the monitor, and that would go to your external speakers. So I hope you've enjoyed this look around the UHER 4400 report monitor. I think the sound on this is fantastic. I think this would be right at home in a hi-fi system. I know people do have reel-to-reels in hi-fi systems, but they're not normally the 1/4-inch tape like this. They're normally the bigger tapes, but this one is doing a great job. Well, it is on 19 centimeters a second anyway. The quality does deteriorate as you go down the speeds. Just remember, if you are going to do this, you've got the 2 sockets there. These are just, as I said, the 5-pin DIN to RCA leads, and one of them for the input, one of them for the output. There may be some kind of converter you can buy for this to adjust the phono inputs to a line level perhaps, but like I said, I'm using the phono input and it's working fine for me. So if you've liked this video, if you've enjoyed it, give it a like for me, and I will see you on the next one. I'll just leave you looking at this player for a few moments while I play back a recording that I've just done.